We're halfway through the year. I know, time moves differently during a pandemic, but that's right, we're at the halfway mark. And you know what that means? Top 10 movies of 2021 so far. I'm about to share my list with you, and I'm excited to see your lists down below, because this is no easy task. It's a pandemic, as I just said, and especially towards the beginning of the year, it was slim pickings. So here are the rules for the lists. Even though streaming is certainly on the rise, I'm only including movies that played in theaters, although they could have a digital day and date release as well. That's cool. We accept that. And I'm also not considering any of the movies that came out early in the year, which were Oscar contenders because they moved the deadline back, because I think it would be confusing because they're really considered last year's films. Of those movies, the only one that I would have included would be Judas and the Black Messiah. Such a fantastic film. Daniel Kaluuya, of course, won the Oscar for that, but the whole film is fantastic. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. All right, here we go. And I'm warning you, the bottom half of this list is pretty rough. I told you, this is a tough task. Chapter times below. All right, number 10, Wrath of Man. I warned you, but I liked it. This is a slick, tightly crafted action thriller without an inch of fat on it, just like Jason Statham. My expectations were very low for this film, so I was delighted when it was so entertaining, with twists, turns, and plenty of action. Guy Ritchie is on a roll. It's not as good as The Gentleman, but it's close. Number 9, Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, story-wise, this movie was awful, but it's so impressive visually, I still had a good time watching it. All the lizard versus monkey fights are very entertaining, and the movie doesn't take itself seriously at all, which made it a lot of fun. It's basically what I like to call a theme park movie, as I felt like I was on a ride when I was watching it, and there's a place for that. Number 8, Mortal Kombat. Again, I know. Warner Brothers has had a lot of script problems this year so far, although I'm very scared for Suicide Squad. But to Suicide Squad's credit, these two movies still made my list, right? I mean, again, low expectations really saved this one. I loved that Kano versus Reptile scene so much. I can still remember how I felt as it unfolded. Just everything clicked. It was funny, it was exciting, it was really beautifully rendered and imagined, and this amazing music kicked in. I was just like, I'm having a great time. And I liked Kano in general a whole lot. I thought what they did with that character was fantastic. The opening was really excellent. It was just a great guilty pleasure. And what also added to the experience was that it was a real party that weekend. Remember? Like, everyone watched on an HBO Max together. That's one of the nice things about having these digital day and date releases. Like, Mortal Kombat trended for days as everyone not only talked about the movie, both good and bad, but also tweeted out their setup, the snacks they were going to have. It was really fun. Warner Brothers definitely has something here, and I think this was a good enough start to rebooting the Mortal Kombat movies. I would like another, just without Louis Tan. Although some of you really defend Louis Tan, which fascinates me. All right, number 7, The Courier. Benny C. Don't disappoint. This is a small film, but it's a really well-made film. The type that used to play in theaters all the time, but is more and more headed straight to streaming, which is too bad because these films are still excellent. I think there is something to be said for seeing them in the theater. And this is a true, important, and incredible story. The bond that forms between civilian-turned-spy Greville Wynn, real guy, and Soviet intelligence officer Oleg Penkovsky, also real guy, who turns on his own country and risks his family's safety for what he feels is the right thing to do for the rest of the world, is really moving. Cumberbatch and Mrs. Maisel are excellent, the whole cast is, and this is yet another example of how the Brits so consistently deliver when it comes to entertainment. Movies, TV shows, I mean, they just really do a great job. Number 6, Army of the Dead. This is a Netflix movie, but yes, it did play in theaters. In fact, Cinemark was so happy with the results that they announced that, combined with the success of this test and the shrinking theatrical windows from the major studios thanks to the pandemic and all these streaming services that have been launched, it looks like more Netflix movies will be headed for theaters as well as your streaming device. Not all of them, but like the really big ones, the blockbusters that could potentially do well in theaters. This movie was part of an incredible, historic for Hollywood, 1-2 punch for Zack Snyder, the kind that few filmmakers ever deliver. I don't believe anyone's ever released 2 movies back to back like this. Army was a very inventive zombie movie, and it was fantastic because, of course, a zombie film was the very first movie that Zack Snyder ever made. And it was a lot of fun with especially strong female characters, something that's becoming a Zack Snyder hallmark. And it had a zombie tiger. It deserves to be on this list for that alone. So fun. Number 5, Luca. This is one of those films that I enjoyed more after seeing other people's responses to it. As you know from my review, I personally had a love-hate relationship with it. I didn't love that it was such a small film. I think Pixar can and has done better. But it does perfectly capture the coast of Italy, which is truly mesmerizing from my own trip there, so I always appreciated that about the film. But while the film is very simple, that simplicity does allow the message of the film to really stand out. And I saw a number of reactions on social media when it came out, and also when I watched it myself the first time, but when I watched it the second time, I watched it with a couple of people, and the reactions, particularly from one person in the group I was with, really moved me. And I think this movie speaks to a lot of people, a lot of different types of people, because I think that there's a number of groups, tragically, who knows what it feels like to be seen as a monster, how unfair and cruel that is, and want to not have to hide certain parts of yourself anymore. And so I think for those reasons, Luca is a really special film. And again, as I said, it makes me appreciate it more. And Luca sticks with you. I watched it twice. I had a great time, especially the second time, not only because of that person's reaction, but also because I knew it was a smaller film at that point, so I could just appreciate it for what it was. And it sticks with you, like the summer memories that inspired it. So I'm surprised at how high up this is on my list for 2021 so far. We'll see where it is at the end of the year. Number 4, Nobody. Now, why is this, which is such a similar movie to Wrath of Man, so much higher up on the list, right? Well, it's for 2 reasons. 1, Bob Odenkirk as an action star. It's not just stunt casting, he did the work to really sell it, and that impressed me. And 2, director Ilya Naishuller also did the work, and he really stretched this film's $16 million budget incredibly far. I mean, just like his former film, Hardcore Henry, which I thought was really great. This is better, but that was really strong. I'm surprised it took him so long to get another gig, but Nobody is visually stunning and inventive. It's Clark Griswold as John Wick, and that is an incredibly brilliant idea. And I think that Nobody delivers on that with the potential to deliver even more so with a sequel. Speaking of Italy, they say they want to go to Italy. It's like the Luca crossover you didn't know you needed. But I would love to see them go on a family vacation and have this all happen again to some degree. And kudos to 87 North, who's really changing the game when it comes to stunt work in Hollywood. And they're earning it the respect that it deserves as something that's a creative art form. It's just a joy to watch, especially from them. Number 3, Cruella. Now, yes, this film has its problems, and I'm sure there are some of you who right now are typing, I can't believe this is number 3 on your list, Grace. Well, it is, because when it worked, it really worked. And it's so different for Disney. Talk about personal growth, the fact that they made this movie. The 2 Emmas do some of the best work of their careers, and they set the bar really high for themselves. I mean, we're talking about incredible careers. Plus the costume design and the production design are to die for. Wow! I mean, just as Wonder Woman gave Diana the Disney princess treatment, Disney does the same with one of their classic villains. And it's really captivating and compelling. Her big speech in the 3rd act, incredible. Love it. And I also have to give a shout out to Joel Fry, Paul Walter Hauser, and John McCrea, who are able to hold their own opposite Stone's bigger-than-life performance as her gang that assembles. I love them. I really want a sequel to this movie. Number 2, Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, this movie is perfect. No flaws at all. I absolutely adore it. I saw it 3 times in quick succession because I just loved it. I think it's one of Disney Animation's best. And to see Disney bring an outside live-action behind-the-camera talent, which makes Raya as exciting and as well directed as a live action adventure movie, the kind of camera moves and things that you rarely see in animation, that is a big step for the iconic animation house. And speaking of bringing people in, Disney also brought in a lot of behind the camera talent to authentically represent Southeast Asia. I know there was some criticism about the lack of representation in the voice cast, and I hope that Disney heard that. But I think that what they did accomplish here was still very impressive. It made a huge difference to the film. Disney also finally did right by Kelly Marie Tran after throwing her under the bus with Star Wars. And I hope they give her just as good a live action role so that she can show what she can do on screen and not just with her voice. But I'm just so impressed with her talent after Raya. Number 1, A Quiet Place Part 2. That's right, number 1. This is my favorite movie of the year so far because John Krasinski so perfectly captures the timelessness of movies, especially blockbusters. Jaws, I would say, is the best blockbuster ever made. You can learn filmmaking from it. They used it in my film school. They would show us sequences from it. It's just incredible, especially the best blockbuster ever made from a filmmaking perspective for sure. And Krasinski has clearly studied Steven Spielberg's work, but he still managed to make it his own. I like J.J. Abrams, but he's very much like, I'm going to exactly copy Steven Spielberg. But I thought that John Krasinski did it in a quieter and therefore I felt more profound way. Really, really strong. John Krasinski. This guy might go somewhere. I mean, we thought his career was over after The Office, it was rough for a long time, but he's really come roaring back to showed himself to be really talented. And I'm so glad that he had a small part in this film still, because he's really compelling on screen still as well. A Quiet Place 2 is small in scope, yet epic at the same time. And it's very clever, from how action sequences are set up. How much mileage can you get out of not being able to make any noise? An incredible amount, apparently. And the way Krasinski is evolving the two-movie story that hits you at the very end, I was just really impressed. I was like, wow, I didn't realize you were doing that, and therefore it really, really hit me when you did it. Of all the movies I saw this year in theaters or at home with, thanks to the screening services or, because I got a screener as a critic, this is the only movie that I felt had to be seen in theaters, that deserved to be seen on the big screen. Everything else I felt, you could watch it either place. But this I felt was a movie experience. It was really incredible. So that's my list of the top 10 movies of 2021 so far. And again, I'm very excited to hear your lists down below. Did I change any of your choices with my list? Again, share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.